وصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي. ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. ربي زدني علما. ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا راحم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم. اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم. اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم. اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأحزاب. اللهم اهزمهم وزلزلهم. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, today we are going to talk about some of the lessons from ayah number 113, 14 and 15 of Surah Al Imran. So we'll start with the recitation and the word by word meaning. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
ليسوا سواء من أهل الكتاب أمة قائمة يتلون آيات الله آناء الليل وهم يسجدون.
Laysu, they are not. Sawa'an, sawa'an, the same. We learn the same word sawa'an in Surah Baqarah as well, right? In the beginning, that it is the same whether you want them or not for the disbelievers. We learned right in the beginning of Surah Baqarah. So laysu sawa'an, they are not the same. Who are not the same? Min ahlil kitab, from amongst ahlil kitab, ahl, the people of al kitab, the book. Ummatun is a community. There is among the people of the book a community, an ummah, right? And ummah comes from Hamza, Mim, and Mim, people who are bound together by a certain ideology, like-minded people, basically, and especially in terms of the deen. It's not related to the color or the nation or the community, culture, language, family heritage or linkages or lineages, or how much wealth are these are the rich people of the society or the poor people of the society, men or women. An ummah is somebody who is related, who's like-minded people, especially in terms of the deen. So amongst the people of the book is a community, is a group of people. Qa'imatun, they are standing. Yatluna, and reciting, and they are like reciting from the same root as tilawat, right? When we do the tilawat of the Quran, we are reciting the Quran. And also talaw is used in the sense of following something. And when we are reciting something, we are following the recitation, right? We are following the letters of, there is a flow to it. So we are following something. So when we are reciting the ayat of Allah, and also reciting, meaning the following the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning whatever the ayat of Allah ta'ala is telling them to do. Ana al-layli, in the hours of al-layl is the night, wahum, and they yasjudun, and they prostrate and they do sajda. So here Allah Ta'ala is telling us, in previous ayah Allah Ta'ala told us that duribat alayhim, like that stamped on them is dilla and everything wherever they go. And we learned a lot about the history of different groups from amongst the people of the book. But now Allah Ta'ala, and again Quran is very, very balanced. So now Allah Ta'ala is telling us in these three ayat that they are not all the same. So don't paint all of them in the same brush. They're not all the same. Quran is very, very just and talks about insaf, like justice. And where the credit is due, then Quran gives the credit to. So they're not all the same. A party from amongst the people of the book, they stand for the right, and they're steadfast, they're upright. They recite the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the night hours, and they prostrate themselves in prayer. Right? They do sajda. Then in the next ayah number 104, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويسارعون في الخيرات وأولئك من الصالحين.
يؤمنون بالله, they believe from Iman. يؤمنون بالله, they believe in Allah. واليوم الآخر, and they believe in what? And they believe in the day which is the last, meaning the day of judgment. ويأمرون, and they enjoin, they invite people to, or they command, or they, yeah, advise. بالمعروف, towards the right, something that is known, and we've learned this phrase before. They invite towards the right. وَيَنْهَوْنَ, and they from nahi, they forbid or they stop. Anil munkar, from the wrong. وَيُسَارِعُونَ, and they hasten, they rush, they run. Fil khairat, towards the good deeds. Khairat, from khair is like a good, right? So they rush towards good deeds. وَأُولَٰئِكَ, and those, minas salihin, they are from amongst the righteous. So here Allah Ta'ala is telling us further about these peoples. And these ayat 113 to 115, they're a comprehensive view of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's stance on good people from amongst the people of the book, who might not yet be Muslims as well, or who accepted Islam. So there's both the views that are found, right? So in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala is saying they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day. They enjoin the ma'ruf, and they forbid the munkar, and they rush towards the good deeds, and they are amongst the righteous. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in ayah number 115, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
وما يفعلوا من خير فلن يكفروه والله عليم بالمتقين.
وَمَا يَفْعَلُ, and whatever they do. فَعَلَ, fail is to do something, right? And fail could include both intentional and unintentional things. Like amal is intentional actions, and fail includes both. It's a much broader term. It includes both intentional and unintentional. وَمَا يَفْعَلُ, and whatever they do. Min khairin, of the good. Falan, so, or then, never. Yukfaru, they will be denied it. They will not be denied. So they will never be denied of any good they do, of whatever kind of good they do. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alim, is all knowing, bil muttaqin, of the God fearing, or those who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he knows all of that, all of those, right? So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that whatever they good they do, nothing will be rejected of them. Allah Ta'ala knows very well all those who are muttaqeen, and He is going to give them the rewards, basically, of whatever good they have done. So coming back to these ayat, first thing is that here Allah Ta'ala is saying not all of them are alike. So Quran is inviting us to have a balanced opinion. So again, whenever a believer, when we see something happening, we don't let our emotions take over our judgment, right? Yes, we are passionate about our deen. Yes, we are passionate about, like the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about tawheed, about belief, about protecting the believers and everything. But then in our emotionalism, in our uh, our allegiance to the truth, we are not like anybody who kind of uses and we don't let the emotions to take over us, and maybe somebody takes advantage of us because by bringing us a very emotional rhetoric and everything. Nor do we let our emotions make us exaggerate in one way or the other, right? So we seek the truth and follow the truth, right? So we don't like, just because like we believe in one side, we are not going to just like ignore things which are from the other side and not even listen to them, or not even have an open ear towards anything else, right? And also, not all of them are same. Like Allah Ta'ala is teaching us that different people are different, right? So generalization in particular is a human weakness. So let's say, for example, generalization and assumptions, right? So for example, I say to everybody, okay, I'm in front of a group of, let's say, some workshop or some students or anything, and I say, okay, we're going to do a little exercise. Whenever I say 1, then you say 2, okay? And whenever I say 3, Now, I haven't completed my sentence, but the first thing that comes in the mind of many people is, okay, she's going to say, okay, you say 4, right? But let's say I was not going to say that. I was going to say that whenever I say 3, you say 1, right? It could have, right? But what is happening here? Why did the people, why would most of the people assume that because I said, after I said, when I say 1, you say 2, and when I say 3, they assume that I'm going to say 4, because sometimes what we do is we listen to someone when they start speaking, and then before they finish talking, we already assume what they're going to say. And when we have done that assumption, when that assumption has gone on in our mind, then what happens is we actually tune out of what they're saying, because in our head they've already said it, right? So in our head we have already made up our mind, this is what this person thinks, this is what this person's going to say, and everything, and we believe that they're saying just that, right? So we generalize things. Another example of generalization, we assume things, sorry. And another example of generalization sometimes is in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect that there's a woman who is at her parents' house. She's unmarried for a long time, and then Allah blesses her with marriage. And she sees a lot of good from her husband. Like her husband does a lot of good things for her. And again, he's a human being. He does a lot of, she gets a lot of care through her husband in a lot of ways. And then one day she experiences some hurt through him, some pain through him. And then when she experiences some pain through him and everything, or some hurt, or like he hasn't fulfilled some responsibilities or something like that, she remarks, or she says something like, I have never seen any good from you, right? What happens is she has just ignored all the good, and then just because this one pain is so much, or this one hurt is so much, like she just generalizes to everything, and this is a human weakness, right? So again, what's the point of saying this thing, right? They're different. Different people are different, and in Jews, in Christians, in Muslims, in Hindus, uh, in all kind of faith traditions, we'll find all kinds of people, right? And doesn't mean that if somebody is a Muslim, they cannot be a criminal, or doesn't mean that if somebody is a Jew or a Christian, they cannot be a really, really God-fearing person and very true to the deen that they have learned so far, whatever they know of God so far, right? So it could be that. So first thing is to understand that our deen teaches us to not just be biased and look at different situations and different people with an open mind. So we have to have that kind of an attitude that we are, you know, we are open. Another thing is that then Allah Ta'ala is saying that first you get that out of your way, that just because Allah Ta'ala was telling us in the previous ayat that dishonor has been put on them, a lot of them are evil, a lot of them are doing bad things, and then because of oppression, because of lies, because of not staying true to the covenant of that they have made with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, then a lot of destruction came to them, lot of disgrace came to them, and a lot of harm came to them as well in this world. We learn to that effect, right? Because of their disobedience of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because of their crimes, because of their sins, because of going away from the commands of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. A lot of things came to them, and they could not stay in their position uh, of leadership that was given to them before, right? But then that doesn't mean that just because many of them are doing it, all of them are the same, right? There will be people who are different as well. And here then Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells us about that min ahlil kitabi ummatun qa'imatun, like within the people of the book, there are the people, there is a community, there is an ummah. And again, ummah is somebody that's united, like on the deen. And one side point just for us is that if you want to unite the Muslim ummah, the believers, we have to unite their minds on the deen, right? Like not when we hold on, and which Allah Ta'ala has told us in the previous ayat too, we've learned if we hold on tightly to the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we learn more and more about the Prophet and about the Quran, that is the light. Darknesses could be of many different kinds, but light is the same light which will kill all darknesses. So we bring the light, and inshallah, that will take care of all the darknesses, right? So there is a group of people who are ummatun qa'imatun, meaning qa'ima, like iqama is to stand, right? And there's a group of people who are straight, who are standing straight, right? And so these are the people who are standing on haqq. They are not, they're standing on the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from whatever they know, not just any names like we are Jews, or we are these people, or we are that people. They are more submissive to God than to their own group, than to their own affiliations of their group, right? And then Allah Ta'ala is telling us different qualities. One is they do tilawat of Allah's book. They follow Allah's book in the night hours. And why is especially the night hours mentioned here, in the hours of the night? Because in the night there's solitude. First of all, you cannot, we cannot like show off to anybody. It's like nobody knows about it. It's solitude. It's not, so our intentions are purer in that sense, because like maybe in our family even everybody's sleeping, and even like there is nobody else. It's not congregational prayer, so nobody knows. You're not gone out or anything. Nobody knows you're praying. It is in our solitude. It's like, and again, another thing is there's a lot of focus in the night hours, because like there's no distractions. There's no, I have to get to work at this time. I have to get the children ready for school. I have to make this food. I have to do this. There's no distractions in the night. So the focus is a lot more. Another thing is that when we really love someone, let's say like people who are newly married, or when we really really love someone, that then we see this behavior, that we want to talk to them quietly at night. Like we'll have these young couple who are, let's say, they're married, but then the girl has gone to her, they've just been married like 2 days ago, but the girl's gone to her mother's house or something, and they in the night they're just on the phone and they're just talking quietly and everything. It's just, and they're like, why haven't you slept till now? And it's like, oh no, I was just talking to him. Oh, you're talking to your husband. Okay. Like people understand, okay, they're in love. And it's like they have this, they just want to talk to them. And that just takes away their sleep as well, right? So that's when we have a lot of love for someone, even in the worldly sense, we understand that, right? So we like to talk to them quietly and everything. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that especially in the night hours, and also the night hours, some Mufassirin have also said that it refers to the night prayers, or the prayers during the night hours. It refers to the Salah of Isha in the night, the tahajjud and the fajr, because they're all done in the time so when it is dark, right? The Isha, tahajjud, and fajr, all of these prayers. And obviously there's a thing about tahajjud. And another thing is, the Prophet ﷺ said, told us to the effect that especially the prayers of Isha and fajr, they are especially hard for the hypocrites. Because like during the day, it's like people see them when they go and everything, like when they make an entrance, they make an exit, people see, and they're like known as believers and everything. But night prayers are generally harder. They don't want to sacrifice their sleep or anything. But they, like at that time, even the munafiqeen, they would come to pray at with the Muslims, but it was hard on them. Right? And today, like for us, it's yes, we need that, right? And uh, we need, and the word ana, it means like time, or the duration of time, right? So again, when we have a relationship with somebody, we want to talk to them, right? When we have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want to talk to him. And then we do the tilawat. And why is the tilawat of Allah mentioned here, tilawat of the ayat of Allah mentioned here, right? Because we want to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through the word, we can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously, right? That's the pleasure that is reserved for the next world, for the people whom Allah ta'ala is pleased with. But in this world, how do we connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Even if somebody doesn't see a flower, let's say there's a flower, there's a rose, somebody has not seen the flower, but they can smell it, right? They can smell it when you enter a garden, or let's say there's a bouquet in your house, and you've just entered the house, and you're like, "Ah, this is a beautiful smell," right? And you would know that it's something beautiful, something fresh, something like so. Just from the fragrance of something, you can understand what that thing is like, right? So, and again, there's no example for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this is only for us to understand, right? Because like we are human, and Allah ta'ala encouraged us to understand through metaphors and examples. So when we interact with the kalam of Allah, when we recite the kalam of Allah, when we try to learn the Quran, when we try to understand the Quran, when we try to memorize the Quran, when we're reciting the Quran, when we are sharing something from the Quran, what are we doing? We are understanding more and more and more of it, and through that we will get to know Allah Ta'ala more. The more Quran somebody has in us, in them, the more they're going to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And through that, they're going to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So this group of people, from the people of the book, in these three ayat, Allah Ta'ala is telling us 9 different things about them, right? One is they do qiyam, they stand, they do tilawat, and like we said, it also means to follow the ayat of Allah, recite the ayat of Allah and follow, meaning follow the commands of, yeah, and they do sajda in night when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, and only He knows how connected we are to Him, right? And then in the next ayat, He will tell us that they believe in Allah. Then the fifth thing is they believe in the Day of Judgment. The sixth thing, they enjoin the right. The seventh, they forbid the evil. The eighth, they rush towards good deeds. And nine, they are the Salihin. They're amongst the Salihin, right? So even at the time, some people became Muslims, and Ibn Abbas says it refers to those people that from when it says min ahlil kitab, it refers to those people at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some mufassirin, like Ibn Abbas, he has said that it refers to those people, right? And some mufassirin have said that it refers to people in the future who will become believers and Muslim. Like they will look at haqq and they will recognize the haqq when they come to it, and then they will accept it, right? Even though they are coming from different faith traditions or anything, or maybe from a not so practicing family or a community. They might be Muslims but not so practicing, but when they come in touch with the Quran, it just lights up something within them. They just need to interact with it, right? And they understand this is the truth, and they just attach themselves to it, right? In a hadith, a Prophet was asked, "Who is amongst the best people?" Right, and he replied to the effect that the one who is the who reads the Quran the most, right? The one who is muttaqi, who's like who abstains from things, who does like who does parhez, who's like whatever is allowed, he goes towards that, and whatever Allah Ta'ala doesn't like, he stops himself or she stops herself from that. One who gives commands people towards the good and tries to stop them from harm, and the one who tries to join relationships, who doesn't try to break relationships but makes an effort to join relationships, because all these things, they would require sabr. They would require a lot of patience from somebody. It is hard to try to keep a relationship joined when let's say we are the only person who's trying to keep it joined, right? And other parties are not putting in so much. Then that will require a lot of effort, and only somebody who's like really doing it for the sake of Allah will be able to do it, right? And another thing here is that why is the sajda mentioned here particularly? It is because of the few reasons. One is it is said that a sajda is the way to become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a way to why should I not do sajda towards the one who has given me everything, right? So it is one way to really really get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the most prominent part of the prayer as well. When we do our salah, when we do our namaz, it is the most prominent part of it that we fall into sajda. And it is the chief manifestation of our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are doing sajda, we're literally putting our head to the ground, the highest part of our body to the ground. So we are literally showing submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by our body and everything. Another reason is that because in the previous ayat, the Bani Israel, the Jews were being addressed, and over the centuries, what they had done in their prayer was they had abandoned sajda from their ritual prayers. Like they had, if you look at their prayer, it's very similar, but they have omitted the sajda. So this was a reminder for them, for those people, those of their learned people who knew that sajda was there, but they had removed it slowly and gradually. They knew that it is actually a part of prayer, although we are not doing it and everything. So it was a reminder to them that come back to that stage, right? And also it is used, a sajda is used for a very humble state as well. Like for example, at some parts in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala will say, Yasjudu ma fis samawati wal ard, meaning everything in the universe, in the skies and the earth, does sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, it doesn't mean a physical sajda like we are doing in our salah, but it means also that it's in a state of complete humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a complete submission in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So a sajda is used in that sense. And also sometimes when sajda is said here, it also means that sometimes a part is used for a whole. Like, let's say somebody has a really good car, and we want to compliment them for their car. Somebody will say, wow, wow, man, you've got a really good, nice, this is some nice wheels, right? When we said wheels, now we meant the whole car, but we just said wheels. But wheels is a part of a car which was used to um, talk about the whole car, right? So a part is sometimes used in our speech. When we are saying something, a part is used for a whole. So in some tafsir, some people have also mentioned that when Allah Ta'ala is saying here that they prostrate, they do sajda, it's referring to that they pray, because sajda is a part of the prayer, and by saying the part of the prayer, actually it is referring to the whole prayer as well, right? And so there is, like, we know that uh, inside us there is a moral, a spiritual, and ethical compass. So Allah Ta'ala is saying that this religion connects with it. So there are people amongst the book, when they come in contact with this Quran, with this thing, then it connects to their compass. And regarding these ayat for their asbab nuzul, the reasons of revelation, there are a couple of things which are said. In one narration, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu and Muqatil radiallahu anhu, they said that when some people from the Jewish community, like the Rabbi Abdullah bin Salam, radiallahu anhu, Salaba ibn Sana, Asyad bin Janah, Asad bin Ubaid, and others amongst the Jews, what they did was, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they believed and they embraced Islam, right? And when they did so, then some rabbis amongst the Jews who were not, who, although they understood the the faith, but they were not ready to accept. So what did those rabbis? What did they say? They said that none of our people have believed in Muhammad except the wicked amongst us. Right, so they're calling basically Abdullah bin Salam and the other people from the Jewish community who believed in Islam. They're calling them wicked, and they're saying if they had been amongst the best of us, they would not have abandoned the religion of their fathers. Right? And they said to the believers, they said to the people who had converted from Judaism to Islam, they said to them, you have committed an act of treachery when you changed your religion to another. And then it is said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah that not all of them are alike. The people of the book, from the people of the book are a portion who stand during the night. They recite the ayat of Allah and they prostrate themselves in prayer. Meaning these people, they had these qualities already. Whatever they had, even before the Prophet ﷺ came, these people were praying to Allah. They were talking to Allah. From whatever they know, whatever knowledge they had until then, they were praying to Allah during the night. They were prostrating themselves in prayer with whatever they had until then. They were reciting whatever ayat of Allah they had, even though they had been changed over. A lot of Torah had been changed over the centuries, but whatever they had, they were following it to the best of their abilities, even before that, right? So basically Allah Ta'ala is praising those people who have listened to their fitra, they listened to their moral and spiritual compass which was inside them, and when they recognize the truth, they accepted that right away. Another thing which is said is that Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu, he said that this verse was revealed concerning the night prayer which the Muslims prayed, while those like them from among the people of the book, there were many who did not pray. So, and again, we know that in a lot of, through a lot of the ayat of the Quran and the Hadith as well, there's a lot of reward for prayer during the night, right? Uh, so there's a lot of importance which is actually given to the prayer during the night, right? And then Allah Ta'ala tells us about some more qualities of these people. What do they do? That they believe in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, right? And and they believe in the hereafter. So it is the actually the belief in Allah and the belief in hereafter. This is what keeps us straight. The problem comes only when we forget accountability. When somebody forgets accountability and they forget that they'll have to face death, they'll have to face. Sometimes we look at some behavior of some people, even our contemporaries, like the people who are there in our own generation, and they are doing a lot of injustice. And you're like, how can you, whether it's at a domestic level or a national level or any level, we see, or in organizations or politically speaking, we see people doing like open evil, and we're like, how can somebody do this, right? How can somebody can't you tell, like, anybody, the whole world can see this is evil, but you can't see it? How can you do that? How can somebody justify domestic abuse, for example? How can somebody justify for for a strong muscular man to physically harm a woman who's under his care, right? Doesn't make any sense. Like any clear thinking person would recognize that your job is to protect her, to take care of her, to maintain her, to provide for her. And you hurting her, you have to protect her from hurts from everybody else, and you hurting her is is not it doesn't goes against anything, right? But why does somebody get to that level? How could somebody do that? Sometimes we think that happens. Somebody's gone through that level, which like even any normal human being will recognize, which is like again the spiritual, moral, ethical compass inside each one of us, right? And this religion connects to it, right? Uh, this only happens when we forget accountability, when we forget that there is death, that I have to also, just like everybody else before me, and I see people dying every other day. I hear of this person dying and that person dying, and someone in my family passed away. This person passed away. This scholar passed away. These innocent people are passing away. I hear of these people passing away, but sometimes it's hard to remember that I have to pass away too. That's why whenever we hear that somebody's passed away, the first thing we say is Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Indeed, like what we are saying is we are not even saying about the person who's passed away. We are reminding ourselves, indeed, I belong to Allah. I'm not even talking about, let's say somebody came to know their aunt had passed away, and the first thing they say is Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Now they are not saying that like that oh, my aunt belonged to Allah and my aunt has gone back. No, what we are told to say is I belong to Allah and I am going to return to Him as well, right? So we are saying that okay, this person has gone, but I'm going to join them too. So I better remember every death that we encounter is a reminder of our own death too, meaning like correct our matters, right? So these people, what they do, Allah Ta'ala is telling us the quality of these people. They believe in Allah and the hereafter, meaning they're conscious of they're going to meet their Lord, and they bid the fair and forbid the unfair. So this is a quality that we will see, and like we talked before in the previous ayat, maruf and munkar is known by all, right? It's the same for people of all faiths. It's not like, and we can stand together, different people from different faith, we can stand together and we can stand together and stand for something that is right. And it's not that we have to have only Muslims and everything. No, if something's right, and even if like other people from other faiths are standing there, then we can and we should stand for the right and forbid the unfair, right? And they race towards the good deeds, meaning yusari una fil khairat, meaning why would somebody race towards something? Like let's say somebody is let's say there's a doctor who has to operate on somebody. Now at that time, if they get a phone call about like oh, there is a sale going on here, and do you want to go shopping tomorrow or something, like they, let's say their friends call, they're like, okay, 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 you know what, like I'll talk about it later. Right now I have I'm going for an operation, like, and everything. I have to start something in like 15-20 minutes. So I have to go there. So no, you know what? I can't talk about this right now. So this is not important. This is not that urgent, right? So when somebody has a focus, they rush towards that, right? So why would somebody rush towards good deeds? Because their focus, because they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the day of judgment, right? And they're bidding the fair and forbidding the unfair. So their focus then becomes the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're doing with that laser focus, and so they're rushing towards good deeds because that's making them rush towards good deeds, right? And they're not wasting their time, right? And in the context of the people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it would mean that the people who, like Abdullah bin Salam, who radiallahu anhu, who when they saw the Prophet ﷺ, they recognized the truth, they rushed to accept Islam. They were like, okay, I'm not going to delay it any day or any moment. I'm going to like just say my shahada now and accept Islam right now, right? And we know from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to the effect that uh, before old age comes to you and your head starts shaking, meaning like some people have this when they got really old, their head keeps shaking, like their neck becomes a bit unstable, or you are heedless and death comes to you. or you get certain kind of illness that you can't move anymore, or you get into a situation in which like there isn't you feel hopeless and like you're trapped in a certain situation. Before that happens, rush towards good deeds. Meaning the Prophet ﷺ wants so much good for us that he is advising us to run towards good deeds. Like don't delay it, right? Rush towards good deeds, right? Today, what we see is, unfortunately, with a lot of, and again, this is a general thing, not for each one of us. May Allah Ta'ala guide me and all of us. Is we are so we rush to argue, we rush to debate, but we don't rush to do good deeds, right? But we should the arguments and the debates and everything, we hold back on that. And like some people say that when they are it was asked by some people, like, what has the Quran taught you? And they say, when they have studied the Quran for a very, very long time, they say the Quran has taught me where to keep silent, where to keep my mouth shut, and where to open. And like I don't I used to speak a lot, but I speak much less now, right? So it's like but like it's more focused, what we speak and how we speak and what we're doing. But we rush towards good deeds instead, right? So we rush towards good deeds, and we are very conscious that we don't want to say anything wrong. So we want to we become conscious of our tongue a lot more, right? And also that group of people become deserving, become like Allah's rahmah comes on those people who rush towards good deeds, right? And another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect that before the fitna comes, before the different fitnas come to strike you, rush towards good deeds. Like, for example, we saw at the time of the COVID that people could not go to mosques, even a lot of janaza prayers. We could not have a lot of people there and everything. But before that, people could go, right? So we take advantage of the things that we have. And again, to the same effect, the Prophet ﷺ told us in another hadith, take advantage of five before five. Take advantage of your youth before your old age, your health before your illness, your richness before your poverty, your free time before you get busy, and your life before your death. Meaning, our health, our wealth, our youth, our time, our life, we are going to lose all of it. None of it is going to stay as it is today, right? We are going to use it. It's lose it. It's going to happen. But before it starts going, then going away from you, don't think that what you have today, you're always going to have it. But it is there for a limited time. And while it is there, make the most of it. Do whatever you can out of it, right? So there's a famous saying. It says that yesterday I wasted the time, and today the time is wasting me, right? So may Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who understand this, right? That who start getting this this focus, and who want to rush towards good deeds. And again, not just worrying about others, that whether they are rushing or they're not rushing, or like anything like that's happening, but also to basically take care of our own rushing, that we rush towards it, right? That we rush towards our own good deeds, right? And when we see good causes, we want to put our share in it. Anything that we can do, even if it's a little bit. And let's say I don't have too much money on me, but then there is some good cause. Even if I can put $1, even if I can put 50 cents, whatever we can do, we want to put our share in the khair, right? So that's what a believer does. We want to rush towards that, right? And why would we rush? We would rush when we would have this yaqeen that my time is limited, and that we have to go far. Like Abu Talha, radiallahu anhu, radiallahu anhu, sorry, he used to fast a lot. And some people asked him, why do you fast so much? Like, okay, like you've done your obligatory fast in Ramadan and everything, but why are you always like doing these nafil fasts so much? Why are you fasting so much? And he said to the fact that I have a very long journey and I'm preparing for that, right? And a lot of people in our past, they've said that too, like we have to go very far, and the 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 risk, that the provision that we have for this journey, the things that we have collected for this journey are very, very little. Meaning, on the day of judgment, we have a long way to get to Jannah, right? And the provisions, meaning the good deeds that we have collected, are not so much. So we rush, we don't leave any opportunity. Whatever time we have, we think of it as a blessing, and we don't get lazy. We kind of like utilize it. And again, we utilize it, but we don't like push it on others. Like we encourage others, but we don't. We rush over ourselves, but everybody is at a different phase. Like, so there's a narration to the effect that if you're standing, then sit up. Like if you're sleeping, then wake up. If you're awake, then sit up. Like, don't keep lying down. If you're sitting, then stand up. If you're standing, then start walking. If you're walking, then like walk a little faster. If you're walking faster, then rush. If you're rushing, then rush even for more, right? So no matter where we are, we do like, and again, we can't just like go from sleeping to running, right? There are steps. So we see where we are and we try to go further and further and further. Another thing is, each one of us can ask ourselves, what am I running towards? Because we're all running towards something, right? A kafir keeps just the dunya in front of them, but a mu'min keeps akhirah in front of them, right? So everybody's running towards something. What am I running towards? Right. And the one who has akhirah in front of them, they will not leave any good deed, even if it is as small as removing a stone from a path. And what is that? Our tradition tells us that we don't trivialize any good deed, even if it's just a smile. Why? Why don't we trivialize any good deed, even if it's such a small deed? Like nobody even noticed. Like I was feeling, let's say, very sad, or like something happened and I was not very happy at that moment. But another Muslim sister came and everything, and I just smiled for her. I didn't feel like smiling at all, but I smiled, and I'm like, okay, the Prophet ﷺ told us to smile, and like, why do I give the negative vibes to somebody else? Let me just smile and everything. That smile was hard to do. Yet, even that smile, it is a big, big, big good deed. Why? Because the one for whom we are doing it, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Al Kabir. The deed might be small, but the one who we are doing it for is Al Kabir. He's Al Alim, and he's a Shakur, right? So he's the biggest, he's the most knowing, and he's the most appreciative. Nobody can appreciate our smallest of things like Allah Ta'ala can, right? And just when some other people recommend us for something, we rush towards like useless things like buying something or this and that. But and if like we miss out on a sale or something, we get like, so like, oh, I missed that. But when we miss out on the like any chance to do good deeds, do we feel that too? That's a way to check ourselves. Do I feel, oh my God, I missed that chance for good deed, right? So that's what Allah Ta'ala is teaching us. And also in this ayah, then Allah Ta'ala tells us that they will be from the Salihin. And Salihin is a status in our ummah too. Like, and the top three levels that we know are after the prophets, other than the level of the prophets. Obviously, the level of prophets, none of us can reach. But other than the prophets, the ummah, all of us, the levels which are there for us, and they're achievable. Because why would Allah Ta'ala tell us otherwise if they're not achievable, right? Are those of Siddiq and Shuhada and Salihin, right? So Salihin are the truthful people. The Siddiq are the truthful people. Shuhada are the martyrs, and Salihin are those people who are righteous. And in one narration, like it says, like they were the people who reverted, like Abdullah bin Salam, right? So basically, those people from Ahlul Kitab, those people from the people of the book, who stood by the covenant they made with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, meaning they were righteous and faithful. As the truth about the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran went on becoming clear to them, they accepted the faith and joined the Muslims. And so the Quran is praising these people very highly, those people of the book very highly, who basically, as the truth opens to them, then they accept it, right? Just because the only reason they don't accept sometimes is because of they don't know, or the propaganda has made them to believe otherwise and everything, right? So that might happen. And so for us, what does it mean? Another thing on the side here is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam, one of the du'as of Ibrahim alayhi salam was Rabbi habli hukman wa alhiqni bis salihin. Right? He wants to be amongst the salih people. And Allah Ta'ala says about Ibrahim alayhi salam that he will be with the salihin. So what these people of the book are doing is, by being righteous, they're trying their best to stand up to the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So whatever they have with them about from the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, they are doing their best to live up to that. And for us also, it means that we have the Quran and Sunnah, that we do our best to live by that, and we don't borrow our lifestyles from here and there, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the next ayat that what he continues about these people, and he tells us that whatever they do, so these are different things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that they do, but what and then whatever good they do, it will never go unappreciated, right? وَمَا يَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَلَنْ يُكْفَرُوا فَلَنْ يَكْفُرُوا فَلَنْ يَغْفَرُوهُ, right? That nothing they do, no good they do, no matter how small it is, how big it will never go unappreciated. Because why is that? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very, very, very well aware of the God fearing, or the people who are pious, or the people who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So after telling us these 9 things, 9 kind of different good deeds, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what will happen with these good deeds. Right? Will they be rejected for some reason or anything? No. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that He will never let them go to waste. So whoever does these 9 things, right, whether Muslim or not, why? Why whether Muslim or not? Because Allah knows the muttaqeen really, really, really well, right? And what does that mean? That Allah knows a muttaqin really, really, really well. So let's think of an example. Let's say there is some Muslim person who accepted Islam, and he's in a village very, very far away from, like, they don't have much internet and everything, and they don't have much access to, let's say, the books of hadith and everything. Like, they know something, they don't know about what is a daif hadith, what is a sahih, what is the level of hasan, and they don't know the intricacies of fiqh a lot and everything, but they know some basic things. They know salah, they know zakat, they know the pillars of Islam, and they are doing it to the best of their ability, and they're like they're doing their best to live a simple, clean life. They don't have too much ilm, but they have the Quran, so they're reciting the Quran. They probably don't have access to a lot of tafsir, but they have some translations. They're just reading that, and whatever they have, they're doing their best to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're trying their best to do things that Allah loves and to stay away from those that Allah does not like, right? And there are other people. So this is one kind of person who's far off from, he doesn't have that much ilm in that sense. And there's another person who knows a lot, but they don't live up to what they know. Like, they put some effort, but they're like, yeah, okay, I have, like, I do some, and it's okay. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing a little bit. So it's all good. Like, even if I'm not doing so many things, it's okay, right? On the day of judgment, out of these 2 people, who is more valuable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who do you think would be more valuable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? So one thing we have to understand in our deen is that there are 2 things usually. There is the efforts, and there is the heart. The 2 things that matter in our religion a lot. What is our heart like? Does somebody have a good heart? Not like how many degrees a person owns and everything, but how much sincerity is there inside, how much good their heart is, right? And like, and what are the efforts that the person is making, right? So basically, the faith is inside and the goodness is outside, right? So inside we have taqwa, right? And in Islam, we are very firm in our beliefs and our aqidah, but we also do not pass verdicts on other people's hearts, right? So on the outside, we have, so there are a few things happening here. On the outside, we have, like, okay, this is a good action to do. This is not such a good action to do. The correctness and incorrectness of ideas and evidences is there, and we are unapologetic, and Islam is unapologetic on that. Like, there is Tawheed, and Tawheed, we don't compromise on Tawheed and everything. This is what the idea is and everything, and this is how it works, and these are the efforts on the outside based on that this is Tawheed. So when it comes to the mind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran many times, why don't you think? Why don't you think? So we invite somebody to think. We present different ideas and different evidences, and we engage in conversation within our domain of these ideas and evidences, and we make our own efforts, and we share with other people about that too, right? But when it comes to the heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that, as tells with us at different places in the Quran, that it is He only who knows what is in the heart. So somebody might not appear to be very religious, but they might be a kind person. They might be a good person, right? And they might be God-fearing, but they just haven't understood. They're doing the best of their own ability, but they haven't understood the message yet. Because, like, Even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were some people who accepted Islam right at the very end. Like there was Ikrimah, the son of radiallahu anhu, the son of Abu Jahl, right? And he was like, for the most part of the Sirah, we see him fighting the Muslims, right? But at the time, and when did he become Muslim? After Fatah Makkah, he was actually one of those people who were one of those very few, six people who were ordered to be executed. But if they stay and everything, and he basically ran away. And when he was in the sea, then there was a storm in the sea. And then everybody was like, everybody in the ship was like, okay, this is a really big storm and everything. So we have to, now we cannot pray to our idols and everything. Now we have to pray to the big God, which is Allah. So we have to pray to Allah now and everything. And so everybody said, okay, now we have to pray to Allah because like the other idols, they can't help us now because it's like a big problem now. And so we're going to die anytime. It's a huge storm in the sea. And in that moment, what he realized, what, you know what, this is what this person, this is what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been saying all along, all these years. He has been saying, worship one God alone. And if while I'm at the sea, then only Allah can help me, then why would the idols be able to help me when why would Allah not be the only one who will help me in the land? So nothing, all that dawah, all that thing didn't work on him. But this one experience and what was going around, it kind of like something clicked in his mind at that time, which was much later and everything. But he had goodness inside. He had taqwa inside. He just didn't get it before, right? And then when he got it, he made the promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, if I'm saved, if you protect us from this, I will go back and I'll accept Islam. And that's what he did. And Ikrimah radiallahu anhu was the same person after that, that whenever he used to see the Quran, touch the Quran, hold the Quran, when he would to read the Quran, he would start crying. He would say, this is the word of my Lord. This is the word of my Lord. Same Ikrimah who used to be fighting the Muslims, right? So when it comes to the heart, only Allah knows, right? So he knows that which people, no matter what religion or background they have, they're sincerely committed to the truth, right? They want to follow the truth. And had they come in contact with Islam, the real Islam, not some skewed image or twisted picture of religion that is presented to them, had they come in contact with Islam and like that something had clicked in them, they would have immediately accepted it, right? But Allah knows that. We don't know that, right? Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, Allah knows. And He's not, when some heart is good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the hearts, right? And He is not going to waste any good heart, right? He is not going to waste any good heart. And another thing is that we cannot judge other people's heart. We cannot. We don't know what is in the heart. Something can be hidden for so long. Some goodness can be hidden for so long, but we cannot. In terms of heart, we should be concerned about our own, right? We should work on our own. We share the message of others, of this faith with others with a very sincere heart, and because we don't know which person is waiting, which person's heart is waiting for the true thing, right? And the only thing that is needed for us is for us to step forward. So we share lovingly. We don't debate. Like there is a time and a place for debate, but we don't start with debate. We don't start with the thing. We share the message lovingly and everything without judging the other person's heart or without judging whether the person, they will do this or not. But as far as the efforts are concerned, as far as the ideas and evidences are concerned, that we can share and that we can present and everything, right? So it's important to understand this difference, just so we understand that we share, we make our efforts, we call people to Islam, but at the same time, we don't judge the taqwa in the heart, because who knows how much taqwa is in the heart? In which heart? It's only Allah who knows, right? So, and Allah Ta'ala is telling us that never would anybody be discredited. Never will Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala let that go to waste. He'll guide such people, right? And most of the people we know at the time of the Prophet ﷺ who actually came to Islam were actually people from not people from the book, but from idol worshippers. And we can think of it as equivalent to, like, let's say the Hindu religion today, right? People who were worshipping a lot of idols, they actually came. Although it was expected more from the people of the book that they would like rush towards it, but not everybody from them did. It's only groups from amongst them who did. right? And the second big group was of Christians, and then the least was Jews. But even though a lot of Jews did come towards Islam, and we know about a lot of their names and everything that they did, right? And even today, we see that the number of people from Bani Israel, from the Jewish community, that convert to Islam is much less compared to the others, but nevertheless, it is there, right? Like for example, there was Muhammad Asad, right, who in our recent times, who converted to Islam, and who basically who became a Muslim and everything, and he wrote the book The Road to Makkah and everything. And we know of a lady called Maryam Jamila, who lived from 1934 to 2012, and she says she's a known American Pakistani author. Like she moved later to Pakistan. She became a Muslim. She was from a non from New York City and from a non-observant Jewish family. And then she explored different religions and she came to Islam as well. So, and we know in contemporary times too, there are a lot of people who do, but it's not as big a number as compared to that. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, He no matter if somebody has done a lot of sins and everything, and then they come towards the Quran and leave their old sins and like any mistakes that they have done, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to reject them, right? So for example, in this world, when somebody has, let's say they come with a bad credit, in financial credit, they have a bad credit history, they have not paid some loan, or they have broken some lease, or they have a criminal background, what happens is wherever they go, their SIN number or their passport is goes with them, and all their history opens up, right? And so a lot of people might not employ them, or like they might go through a lot of trouble. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is, those who come to them, to those people who come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? There's no such thing as bad credit. It's all erased, right? um uh, like nobody is given like a taunt about their past, like what did they do and everything, like. And also there is hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything. Like one of, as we see a lot of people from one community, let's say we are seeing a lot of Zionist agenda nowadays, and we're seeing a lot of killing, a lot of oppression, a lot of dhulm being done. At the same time, from our history, we also know all these people from Bani Israel who came towards Islam. We also know one of our mothers, Sophia radiallahu anha, who was from a Jewish background, who was the daughter of Soib bin Akhtar, right? And she came at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, at the time of Khaybar to the Prophet ﷺ, and he released her and he married her. And one day we know from one of the incidents that the Prophet ﷺ came and she was crying, and the Prophet ﷺ asked her, like, what happened? Why are you upset and everything, right? And she replied that, one of the other wives, one of her co-wives, one of the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and again, these are our mothers too, right? So we know that, again, we know the human side of them, and also that they are human beings too. And we can be impacted by generalization and assumptions, and we can sometimes say things that can hurt another person too, even if we have the best of intentions, right? So she said, basically, Sophia radiallahu anha, our mother, she said that one of the other wives had taunted her and said that she's a Jew, right? Oh, you're a Jew, like, so they had told her that, the effect of that. And that's why she had started crying. So Sophia radiallahu anha, she was, and if you think of that, Safiya radiallahu anha, she is like not with her family. There's nobody in the Medina from her family and everything. So she's from her, like from her side of that thing. So she only has the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a companion, right? She doesn't have anybody from her tribe or anything like that, and that's the only one she talks to and everything. And now she's just been taunted by somebody else, so she's like really, really upset and everything, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, and how did it, there's a beauty in how the Prophet ﷺ replies to, subhanallah. So he said to her, why are you crying? You could have replied to them and you could have said, you know what? My father was a Nabi. My uncle was a Nabi, and my husband is also a Nabi. None of you has this honor. So what did he mean? Like my father, like many generations obviously apart, my father was a Nabi, meaning Musa alayhi salam, and my uncle was a Nabi, meaning Harun alayhi salam, and my husband is a Nabi, that means like the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So, such a beautiful way, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he took care of her heart, and he not just consoled her, but like even her background, there are good things in her background. There are there is a lot of glorious things in her background too. Like yes, there are people from Bani Israel who've done a lot of bad things, but Musa alayhi salam was from that background too. Harun alayhi salam was from that background too, right? What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us, and there's a hikmah in everything, is that when somebody comes from the other religion, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the muttaqin and everything, what we do is we don't judge people either. When somebody comes from another background, maybe it's from a non-practicing Muslim family or from another faith, or they have converted to Islam or something, then embrace them and be kind to them, right? And in fact, we know that the Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect that when somebody leaves some other deen and turns and then come to this deen, then their ajr is actually the double. If they were faithful to their own deen, if they were faithful to the concept of God that they knew, whatever knowledge they had before Islam, they were true to that. And when they came to Islam, they're true to that, then they'll have a double the reward, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciates them so much, right? And so they were faithful to their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were alive and aware of their obligations towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and towards this book as well, right? And other meanings it says of upright that we are learning in this passage is that somebody who's upright, what they will do is they will end up saying the right thing no matter what, right? No matter what the consequences. Because, for example, and it's always hard to say the right thing. Um, it will always be, it has always been, and it will always be. So for example, if we think of a very small example, there's a party going on, and in the party, let's say there's a group of people, there's a group of ladies sitting together, and they're having a good time, they're chatting and everything, they have good food, they have everything, and then they start backbiting about somebody who's not there, and then they're going on and on about it. So now one person starts feeling like, you know what, this is not right, this is backbiting and everything, and we should not be doing this. Now this one person who speaks up, that, guys, you know what, let's not talk, this person's not here, and if we genuinely feel that that person did something wrong, then one of us should just go and talk to them directly and like discuss it with them, and try to get their point of view and everything, rather than talking about them when they're not here, right? And everything, and just like discussing and discussing and discussing, there's no point to it, and we are getting sins. Now, saying that in a group, you're spoiling the fun for everybody, because everybody's enjoying right now. Everybody's laughing, making jokes about somebody and this and that, and they're laughing. So it might seem like, although you're doing the right thing, it might seem like you are the one who's spoiling the party. You are the one who's making it like you're the one who's spoiling all the fun for everybody. So it might seem like a hard thing to do, and but that's the test, right? When we so and all of these things will tie up together, all these 9 things that Allah Ta'ala has taught us in ayah number 113 and 14, they tie up all together, right? And the um especially the late hours of the night, there is some other traditions as well regarding the Prophet ﷺ said that one time they were the Sahabas were waiting for the salah, and they were waiting for a long time, and they slept. They were waiting so much that they slept and they woke up, and then they again slept and woke up, and they're waiting for the Prophet ﷺ to come and lead the salah. So just as a side point before we continue ahead in this narration, one thing is the attitude of the Sahabas. They were sitting and sitting and sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting. They had their jobs in the morning too. They had work to do too, right? And they used to do a lot of physical labor. Like, yes, we might not be doing as much physical labor, although we have other challenges too. It's not that not to say that we don't do anything, but we have our own challenges. They had their own, but they were waiting. They didn't leave. They didn't start arguing with each other. No one else got up and said, okay, the Prophet ﷺ is taking too long, I'll lead the namaz, so let's just pray and go, right? No one went to ask the Prophet ﷺ what happened and everything. Why aren't you coming? They're waiting for him and waiting for him and waiting for him. And this is like a humble submission, right? That they're waiting for the salah. And when the Prophet ﷺ came out, he said to them that nobody amongst the dwellers of the earth but you have been waiting for the prayer at this moment, right? So like when somebody's in loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they are waiting to pray, right? And other people might be sleeping at such times, but the Muslim ummah has been honored by Allah to give sleep up at night for the sake of prayer. So that's an honor. They say for tahajjud, um, you don't get up and pray for tahajjud. You're invited by Allah for tahajjud. Like if Allah Ta'ala has not invited you, you won't be able to, right? It's a special invitation. So if you're able to make up for tahajjud, then alhamdulillah, just to be able to wake up for tahajjud, even if it is 2 rakat, like 20 minutes before fajr, and if it's like you're half asleep and you're like still doing it, doesn't matter. If you have got up during that time, it's so beautiful, right? And people of no other religion wait for their salah like this, right? So that's what the Prophet ﷺ telling them, that, right? And he said to the effect that we learn in the same hadith that towards the later part of it, that he said that the Prophet ﷺ told them that to the effect that hadn't I thought it would be hard for my followers, I would have ordered them to pray at this time. Meaning that the Prophet ﷺ said to the effect that if it would not be too difficult for my ummah, I would have delayed the Isha prayer a little bit until 1/3 or 1/2 of the night had passed. Meaning, like, so how do we calculate how the 1/3 of the night has passed? You look at the time from when the Maghrib prayer starts, and you look at the time from when the Fajr prayer starts. Let's say the Maghrib starts at, let's say, 7 o'clock. 7 p.m. in the night, and let's say the Fajr starts at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. in the morning. So you calculate how many hours are between them. You divide it by 3, and so that much is like the 1/3 of the night. So after that is a good time to pray Isha. Like, so a little delay Isha a little bit is good. But then again, we all know our own circumstances. If it is easy for us, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Were it not that it would be difficult for my ummah, then I would have delayed it." Meaning that he wants to, but ease again, because if we have a lot of commitments and everything, so this was like one-off things, like, but if ease is always preferred. Like if you can do this, then do it. If you can't, depending on, you have a lot of, you're very busy, you have a lot of things to take care of, then obviously you do whatever works for us in that time, right? And regardless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and appreciates those people who give up sleep. And that's one thing between us, and like we learn in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا bani Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored the children of Adam, meaning all of us. And why did Allah Ta'ala honor us even more than the angels at times? Because we have these needs. We have the need of sleep. We have the need of food. We have the needs. We have desires. We are frustrated by some things. We have some pet peeves that we are irritated by. Each one of us has our own things. Like we want things done a certain way, and we don't want people. We don't like it when somebody criticizes us. When somebody like calls us out on something. We have all these things, right? And yet when we sacrifice those tendencies and then do something, that's what makes us dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have sleep, we are feeling really, really sleepy, but then we give that sleep up. When we are really, really hungry, but we still don't eat because I want to fast for the sake of Allah, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, right? When I have every right to argue and my point is there and everything, and I have a very every right to argue with somebody, some of my family member, like my brother, my sister, my husband, my child, my parents, I'm in the right and I have every right to argue. Yet I put that argument aside and I listen to them and everything, because I want to keep the relationship strong, because Allah Ta'ala has told me, because Allah Ta'ala loves it, for the sake of seeking the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, peace also in the family, but more so because then I'm making that effort for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So, like in this ayah, another thing that we're learning is, let's say, in this world, there's an exam, there's a school exam. There are two people who are studying for the exam. One person studies a lot and a lot and a lot and put in so much hard work, and yet their marks, they don't get too much, they don't get very good marks. Another person, like Allah Ta'ala has blessed them with a lot of intelligence or memory or something, they don't study as much, yet they get better marks. And it happens. We see that all the time, right? But this is happens in the exams of this world. In the akhirah, it is the other way around. We will be rewarded according to our efforts, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to waste anybody's effort, right? وَمَا يَفْعَلُ مِنْ خَيْرٍ, any kind of good we do, right? And every time we read an ayah, for example, it goes into our good deed account, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He knows the muttaqi really, really well, right? What we have to do is we have to make an effort that we put ourselves in the in the condition of taqwa, right? And uh, we have to make ourselves of those people that we are amongst the muttaqeen, right? And even the Quran, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us right in the beginning of the Quran, this book is a hidayat for the muttaqeen. We come with taqwa, and this we come with some basic level of taqwa towards the Quran, some level of fear for God, some level of understanding of God, some level of reverence and awe towards God, and everything. And this book, like like blossoms it. Like the taqwa increases and everything. This Quran will do that for us, right? And in fact, another place in the Quran, in Surah Maida, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Innama yataqabbalu Allahu minal muttaqeen. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts only from the muttaqeen, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us a very big truth in this passage, is that we learned about all these tasks to be done in the ayah number 113 and 114, which are like, what are these things? To do qiyam, to stand, to be upright for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do tilawat of the Quran, to do sajda. Like tilawat and sajda, the two things that are really, really dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves it when we humble ourselves, when we do sajda, and when we are reciting the Quran, right? So, and when we are following the Quran. So first qiyam, second tilawat, and then sajda in the night, especially. Then believing in Allah, fourth. Fifth, believing in the day of judgment. Sixth, enjoining the right. Seventh, forbidding the evil. Eighth, rushing towards good deeds. And ninth, to be amongst the righteous, right? But all these good deeds, when somebody is doing, what's the like the parameter for acceptance, like the condition of acceptance of all of these good deeds is taqwa, right? So like somebody who has taqwa, they will not let any opportunity go to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And those from the people of the book who embraced Islam at the time of revelation of these verses are included in this, and also those other true and sincere believers who will eventually enter the fold of Islam. None of them will be deprived of the reward of whatever good they do, meaning even the good deeds that they did before accepting Islam. And we know what happens when we accept Islam, when somebody comes to Islam, and that could be a person who's born in a Muslim family, but not been so practicing before, but now they've changed. So they are as good as well. And somebody else who's reverted. They have done some good deeds before. They've done some charities before. They have done some helping somebody before. They have done some good deeds before. Now that person has embraced Islam, all their bad is erased, all the sins are erased, all their mistakes are erased, but all the good that they did before formally embracing Islam is still intact. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let their reward for good go, right? So even what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us here is that some people have the potential of good, and Allah knows their heart. So even that potential of good, even when they might not have embraced Islam formally, right? And they might not have known Islam formally, but they have a lot of potential of good in them. It will not be denied of them. Like even later in the Quran, we learn about the people of the cave, for example. There was no prophet at that time. Islam was not there at that time. Even a lot of Christianity had been changed by then. But what did they do? Whatever they knew of, whatever they knowledge they had, they'll be like, okay, we can't worship somebody other than Allah, right? So they just went away and everything, right? They tried to protect themselves. Whatever they knew, they had this potential. So if those people had, Allah Ta'ala knows they have this potential, that if they were there at the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, those people would have accepted Islam right away, right? So again, Allah knows, and He is the best of judge. We have to worry about ourselves. At the same time, we have to keep a good opinion of others, right? Not the faults of other people. And yes, some people are going to outright show that they're evil, who are engaged in facade openly, like Abu Lahabs of that time, like the Fir'auns of that time and our time. That's different. We're talking about the general people and everything. So we don't judge other people's hearts. We worry about ourselves. We present the ideas and evidences, but we do our efforts. We think of the best and we do our efforts, and yet we keep ourselves balanced. We keep ourselves open-minded and everything. And then when we come across people who convert, or even somebody who has not converted, who's visiting our masjid out of curiosity, or somebody who asks us about Islam about curiosity, even when their questions might seem a bit harsh, but they are coming from a place of curiosity. They're not like evil people per se. then we have to engage them with love and with wisdom and with like kindness and thinking the best of them, not assuming the worst of them. Especially if somebody visits a masjid. So what is a masjid? A masjid is a place and time of great humility and submission to God. So our wisdom, our behavior should show that and everything. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who are able to like keep an open mind. May Allah Ta'ala show us the truth as the truth and give us the ability to follow it. May Allah Ta'ala show us the falsehood as false and grant us the ability to, protect ourselves from it, to save ourselves from it, and to live our lives in that sense that Allah Ta'ala is pleased with us. Any good that comes from today is from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala because He is the owner of all good. And any mistakes are mine and mine alone because I'm human being open to mistakes. May Allah Ta'ala accept from us regardless and reward us and make this a means of increasing my iman and everybody else's iman. And may Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who, more than speaking, He makes us of those people who act upon the instructions by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم آمين يا رحمن الراحمين سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك 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 ونتوب إليك.